Hello students! So today I'm going to demo our extruder and this vintage beautiful model that we have here. We have a couple other extruders in the ceramics area, but they're all pretty good. So we can do a couple of different things. So we can extrude lots of different shapes with these various dies, solid forms, squares, etc. But we also have the option of doing hollow extrusions if we're using this to hold a die in the center, and we can change that out, and I'll cover all of that. So in preparing our clay for the extruder, it's kind of like any other process. We're going to want to wedge it to get the air bubbles out, and depending on how much we want to extrude, the goal is to make a lug that is slightly conically shaped, like a cone, so that it'll slide down that extruder tube cylinder nicely. And we want to more or less make something that's about as big as that. And if we've got a whole bag of clay, that's somewhere between a third and half of the bag. So I like to just kind of cut it like that. And then of course, hopefully you're coming to a cleaner wedging table, but that's not the end of the world. But of course we want to cover up any clay that we have sitting out so it doesn't dry. So shaping that is something kind of like this. So we're just rolling it into a lug. If we get rid of these, then we're going to have less of a chance of an air bubble or something popping out in the extrusion that we're making. So we're just kind of squishing it all together like that. And then camera, if you want to follow me, we'll go over here and see how close we are to fitting. Yeah, so that's pretty good, right? So it looks like it'll go in there nicely. Before we put this in there, we want to get our die set up, and they also want to spray the interior of that, which just helps with cleanup. Okay. Project, I would suggest using the largest coil or the second largest coil for these size vessels. And then to take this off, this is what holds our die. We just twist and pull down. And then we're going to put that in first, and then put this over it. Sometimes it helps to put a little bit of clay in along the sides just to keep it in place. So we installed this recently, I think it was like last year. And these are just here so that we can put them in. Try and make sure that we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. And then that way I can put a wear board here, or you can put a wear board here. And as we're extruding, we have somewhere to put all of our coils, and we can extrude out a good amount of clay and then bring that back to our workstation. So when we've got our wear board set up, best practice is actually to take some plastic. And hopefully we have a large enough piece of plastic. And we'll lay this plastic down on top of the wear board so that once we extrude all of these coils, we can then wrap them up in plastic, work at our pace, stop, get a snack, etc. And then those coils won't dry out. Okay, so we've got our lug of clay, and we're going to put a little bit of ham on the inside. So that it doesn't stick to the walls. We need some more of that apparently. And then we're going to drop that in. Just like that. We have to be careful with using this. This is a pinch point. So we want to be really conscientious of where our hand is. Also notice that this is stored in this direction. We never ever want to leave it like this or like this, coming directly out. There have definitely been some people who have ended up with some nasty bumps on their heads because of that. So when we're using it, whenever we're done, it's got to go back in that direction. So to use it, we're going to let the plunger go down in there and slide this down. And it'll naturally fall down. Maybe camera, if you fall over here, we can do a little diagonal. Perfect. And you can see now that there's some pressure. Notice too that I'm not here, right? Because this is not going to be very strong. If I move my hands out here, I'm going to get a lot more power in it. So it's starting to compress. You don't have to touch this, that'll move down on its own. Also notice that I'm not going way up high with it. If we bite way up here, sometimes it'll jump. So it's kind of a little bit lower, it's right in there. And so I'm just squeezing down, not too hard, and it starts to come out. So I'm thinking about how long my wear board is because I don't want to make it too long. About like that. And then we'll set down our coil. And then we just keep doing that. So that's what happens when we get a little air bubble, which is fine. We can still use that to build with. Not a problem. At the end, right, this won't go down any further. And if we're using the hollow extrusion, which I'll cover in another video, this sticks up higher. And it's important when we feel this plunger hit this, because you'll notice that it'll be a certain amount of pressure. We're not adding any more. You don't want to do that or else you'll damage it. So this kind of comes down, and we'll get our last coil out of there, and you'll feel it stop. Put this over here. So to take this out, I'm just going to lift up on this back part and then lever it up and then support, and it can walk out. Instead of having to pull it up, we just walk it up like that. Like that. And then we want to be sure to clean this up. We can wedge this back up and use it. There's also a pretty substantial slug of clay still in here. So it's really efficient, since we're all using the same clay body, to communicate with other students. If they're going to be extruding, don't take this out and clean it right now. Just let them put their slug in here and continue to extrude. And then at the end of the class, we'll be sure to clean it. So just to highlight what we expect as far as a clean extruder. So we've got no clay buildup on the outside. That inner tube is, for the most part, very clean. And then we've got no clay buildup on the handle. And if we take a look at our die holder, it's also very clean, and we can just keep that mounted right here on the machine itself. And of course, nothing on the ground.